All right, guys. What's going on? We're going to talk about some neurology today. We're just talking about RPR over here. How many people here are familiar with RPR? Okay. Have you guys taken the courses?
Yeah.
Okay. You have?
Yep.
There's level 1 and level 2, right?
I just did level 1.
Did you guys do the one in New York last weekend? No? And then how many people are familiar with PRI? You guys taking classes?
I'm at PRC.
Where is that? You are?
Yeah.
No way. When did you get certified?
This past December.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you think? You like the process?
Yeah, the process was great.
So I'm PRT, so your application too, are you a PT?
Yeah.
Okay, so the application process is a little more strange. You had to do a case study, right?
I did 3.
3 case studies.
Yeah, and like 5 article reviews.
Okay. I love them out there. They're awesome.
Yeah.
And for the people who, how many? Raise your hand if you were exposed to PRI at all again. Okay. We'll dive into a little bit of that. I have like my own version of PRI. I call it Sean RI because it's like you spend so much time in a way you can't really do Ron Haruska's to the book understanding what PRI is. But anyway, we'll get into that at some point. But for those of you who don't know, my name is Sean Light. I am a strength and conditioning coach by trade, by the book, I guess. I don't know that necessarily I would fall under the traditional category of strength and conditioning. I'm not one of these guys who's like in the weight room just like lifting weights like one big bad man pajama. So I'm just like a guy. I like to do all sorts of different stuff. I go to the weight room to feel good. I go to the weight room to make myself a healthy person. I'm really big on variability as a strength and conditioning coach and the optimal health side of it. I think it's really important to understand what optimal health is as the basis of everybody's program, and then kind of branching off of that based on what your goals are. One of the things I'm just absolutely huge on right now is the fact that being in a weight room chasing numbers. There are reasons to do it, but I don't think that's what performance is all about. In my experience, the best athletes that I've ever coached are the people who can move the best, who can express the most variability in their movements. But we'll get to all that. So I graduated from Quinnipiac University. We have former intern from Quinnipiac. Anybody else? An intern with Coach B down there? He's always got Springfield. You're trying to be?
Yeah.
I'll put in a good word. B's my man. I love that guy. He's the best. I actually graduated from Quinnipiac with a degree in print journalism, and a true far cry from where I am right now. And the reason I actually remember picking that major, and the reason I picked it was because it was super easy. At least that's what I intended it to be. And at the time when I picked it, I was 100% positive that I was going to be playing in the NBA. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with the basketball history at Quinnipiac University, but it's not exactly rich in NBA talent. So I actually scored 30 points per career. I had 30 career points at Quinnipiac. Somebody just scored 55 points in a game for QU like last week, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, this guy dropped 25 more points than my career, and I thought I was going to go to the NBA, so it was just ridiculous. But after that, I went to grad school. I'm starting to feel out my career where I'm going to actually end up. I knew I didn't want to be a journalist, and I opted to go to grad school to become a history teacher. So I actually was a substitute teacher for an entire school year in New Haven, Connecticut. You guys familiar with New Haven, Connecticut? Can you imagine what that experience was like? My first day, I shit you not, day 1 on the books, I was like, all right, I'm gonna be the cool sub here, right? I'm gonna be the guy who like comes in, like, guys, just get your work done. If you want to go to bed and go to the bathroom, whatever. I'm the cool sub. And the first day, the class got so out of control. I'm talking like beyond the most out of control class you've ever seen. I actually had a girl dancing on top of a desk in the middle of the class, and so I had absolutely no control over her. I couldn't get her to come off the desk. I ended up having to call a policeman who was down the hallway, and this guy walks in, and I was like, hey man, I got this girl, she's dancing on the desk. You gotta help me out here. I've lost all control. She comes in, the guy comes in, and he's like, hey, get off the desk. And she looks at him, she goes, hell no! And the policeman looks at me and goes, sorry, man. And he walked out. And that was day one on the job as a substitute teacher, trying to be a history teacher. So I was pretty sure that wasn't going to be the path for me. So I told my mom after 2 semesters, I'm done with that. And I'm sitting in my room in Hamden, Connecticut, and literally having this conversation with my friend. The whole like, what do you do for fun if you're not working, or you're not in school, you're not doing what you have to do? What do you do for fun? It's like, man, I don't have time for these questions. I'm going to the gym. And he goes, there it is. Be a strength coach. It's like, you know what, that's not that bad of an idea. Coach B looks like he's always having a great time, so all right, cool. So I go into Coach B's office the next day, and I present this idea for him. He says, sure, let's be an intern with him for a year, and he gives me the Essentials of Strength and Conditioning book. Now, you guys picked this book up? I mean, you guys must be exposed to it to some degree, right? I'm coming from journalism at this point, so I got this book in my hands, and the first chapter is actin and myosin cross bridges. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I thought it was straight bicep curls, bench press, let's go, mental toughness, CrossFit status, let's get down to business here. That's literally what I thought strength and conditioning was all about. So, guys, come on. I'm just talking about CrossFit. It's getting a lecture here. I'm opening this book for the first time, no freaking idea what I'm looking at, and you know, literally from scratch, like learning all these words. I was looking up in the dictionary all of the, you know, actin, what's myosin, filaments, and the sliding filament theory, and all these things. Like, I had to look all these up and learn them from scratch. So a lot of what I do, I sometimes refer to it as bro science, because I just had to learn it in the way I knew things. It wasn't taught to me. And like, sometimes I'll go to a seminar, and I'll hear the way somebody pronounces a word, and it'll be so different because I just taught it to myself for the first time reading in a book. I was watching you guys know Tom Myers? I was watching a Tom Myers thing the other day, and he says the word paramecium. I always went with perimycium. Do we have a definite pronunciation on that? Anybody? Paramecium. I think we'll trust Tom Myers on that. But I always hear words like that, and I'm always just like, so if I say that, that's why. If I say a word like that, that's the reason why. But so anyway, I got super fortunate in my career. I landed a gig with the Arizona Diamondbacks. My first job ever was in professional sports, and it was really interesting the way that their hiring process was, because they had such a unique philosophy there. And what they actually wanted to do was they wanted to hire people who were blank slates and could, you know, they didn't have to like peel back the layers and teach somebody all over again. They actually wanted to have somebody that they could just mold into however, you know, this type of strength and conditioning coach that they wanted. And who better than a blank slate than a journalism degree who literally knew nothing. So for some reason I impressed them in the interview process, and I became a minor league strength and conditioning coach for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I do highly recommend that path for anybody who is, you leave college going for a first job. I actually had some Springfield, the head athletic trainer in the big leagues is a Springfield grad. One of the guys I came in with was a Springfield football player, I believe. And I mean, Springfield guys everywhere, but I really do recommend that path. It's a really great learning opportunity. I mean, I was on the plane, going to spring training, brand new strength coach, and I was running my own team 3 months later. And I mean, we talk about learning opportunity, being alone by yourself in Missoula, Montana, which was my first minor league assignment. I mean, really just out there by yourself learning and trying to truly figuring it out all by yourself. So I spent 4 years. I spent 4 years with the Diamondbacks, and then I was very fortunate enough to land a job as a strength coach with the Los Angeles Lakers, which was an absolute dream job. I mean, seeing those guys, working with those guys, and I learned a lot of stuff with these kind of guys. But the biggest thing that I've learned with working with professional athletes, and given my experience, I've worked with the literal best players on the planet, right? There is nobody better than players in the NBA. There are nobody better than the players in Major League Baseball. These are the best players in the planet. And I think back to when I was in middle school, and one of the things that I was absolutely hell bent on doing was becoming an NBA player. And I remember sitting at basketball camp as a kid, and I remember the high school coach would come in and he would say, do you want to make it to the NBA? Raise your hand if you want to make it to the NBA. Everybody raises their hand. And he always said, if you want to go to the NBA, you can't go to the beach with your friends, can't go to the movies, you got to be working out. All the time, you're working out. When everyone else is having fun, you got to be working out. And I'm like 8, and I'm like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Like, I'm going to do it. My friends would call me up, hey, Sean, you want to go to the beach? And I say, oh, here's my chance, man. My chance. Like, no, I'm all set. Hang up the phone, grab the ball, I'm outside doing dribbling drills. I'm not joking. 8-year-old Sean, dribbling drills. My friends were at the beach because I wanted to go to the NBA. I actually used to, you get your birthday cake, you got the candles, and you blow, you make a wish, but don't tell anybody. Every single year, I wish to make the NBA. I wish to make the NBA. Every time you get a dandelion in the summer, pick it up, make a wish, blow it out. I wish to make the NBA. Wish to make the NBA. Right? I finally make the NBA as a coach, and I'm thinking, damn it, I should have been more specific. Right? And but that was my dream. I wanted to make the NBA, and this is what I was doing. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then, look, I was a decent basketball player. I played at Quinnipiac, Division I. I was a pretty solid basketball player. But everybody who was better than me, they didn't give a shit. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what's that about? Like, the best players on the team were the guys who were getting in trouble by the coach. They were up running. I remember our coach would have guys up above like the concourse running laps, and this was our star player, and I'm running the plays, I'm setting good screens, I'm rolling to the basket, I'm boxing out, and these guys aren't doing any of it. And the more I get, the more I'm with it. I'm like, man, like, what the heck is that about? Like, I'm the one who works really hard here. Why am I not the one who's the best player? Move on to the pros, and now I'm working with professional baseball players, and I see it again. I see that the professional baseball guys, these guys are, the best players on the team are the guys that I'm like, guy, come on, please come work out with me. Please come to the weight room. I haven't seen you in a month, come on. And then it was the guys who were in my weight room every single day. They were up against the wall doing their ankle moves or doing the leg lowers, and this is what I have guys do in the weight room. And you was just like going through the whole thing, like to a T, first one's there, last one's to leave, and these were the guys that sucked, right? These are the guys who were always getting released, these are the guys who were getting cut, and I'm like, what the heck is this about? Like, now I'm seeing this again. Why are these guys that are the best players on the team, why are these the guys that are the best players on the team, are the guys who don't want to see me ever? Well, we're talking about strength and conditioning as this surefire way to improve your performance, right? I'm like, what's that about? And then I go to the NBA, and oh boy, you want to see guys not give a shit? Like these guys, like literally, I remember a guy walks into the weight room one time, and he legit walks in. This guy's like a borderline all-star. I won't give you a name because there's cameras going. But it's a borderline all-star guy, and he steps in, and I go, hey, what's up, man? Because I hadn't seen him in a while. I was like, what's up, man? What do you got? And he goes, looks like I got lost. And he turns around and walks out. And I'm like, this was our best player. This is one of the best basketball players I've ever seen play basketball in my entire life. And he never comes in. And we had a lot of guys like that. And I'm like, what's the deal with that? Why do I keep seeing that? And does anybody have any philosophies, any theories as to why that is? Because I got some. Anybody?
Strength and conditioning are not very important in this sport.
So I think I'll say that strength and conditioning, it's not that it's not important, but it is overrated, yes. And people are doing the wrong things, right? So I won't say that. When I was a basketball player, I remember playing against Cornell. All right, anybody ever been to Cornell? Ever watch a Cornell? Raise your hand if you've ever seen a Cornell basketball game on TV. Okay, we actually, wow, really? Basketball fans. Okay. So I remember playing as Cornell, and I'm at the line. And if you took me outside right now, you guys can't come, but if you took me outside to a basketball court and shot 10 free throws, I'd make eight to somewhere between 8 and 10, right? You put me in a crowd. If you guys came out then, I'm going to make like 4 because I'm going to be rattled, right? So a normal person stands in front of. I go to LA and I'm at the Staples Center, and a normal person, if Luke Walton had been like, oh my God, we're in foul trouble, Sean, lace him up, you're in, and I got to the foul line, I would be so freaking nervous. I would be so rattled. I remember playing against Cornell and standing at the line and just saying to myself, okay, please just hit the rim. Do not embarrass yourself. Just hit the rim, just hit the rim, just hit the rim. That's normal, okay? That's what a normal person thinks. The fact that one of the guys on the Lakers can go in front of 20,000 people in LA, and there's like Denzel Washington sitting right there, yeah, Kendall Jenner was there, Will Ferrell over here, and these guys just like, that's abnormal. That's not a normal person. Normal people get rattled by that, right? My brother was, and we got Red Sox fans in here, right? Red Sox, raise your hand if you're a Red Sox fan. Okay, do you guys know a pitcher named Pat Light? Okay, good. So he's my brother. He pitched for the Red Sox for like a month, and I don't know if you guys remember, raise your hand if you remember this, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, you played the Angels and you gave up like literally 25 runs in a game, like literally 25 runs. Does anybody remember that? My brother was yeah, you remember. My brother was accountable for like 7 of those. Booed him off the mound, never pitched in Fenway again, sent him right to the Twins. You're on your way out of here, my man. But so he comes in the game, right? Now this is my brother. So he comes into the game, and I'm Sean Light, Cornell. I just want to hit the rim, and here goes my brother running out of the mound, or running out of the bullpen, Fenway Park, 40,000 people. First batter, Mike Trout, and he's just like, glove, and I'm like, how do you do that? How do you do that? What's the deal with that, right? So this is what I start thinking. I start thinking that, I'll give you one more anecdote on that. When I was in college, Ray Allen used to always come to play basketball with us at Quinnipiac because his best friend was one of our coaches. And he would come down and we'd all be in awe because he's the best three-point shooter for the time being in NBA history. And I used to ask him, one time he comes to me, and we're talking at the practice, and I said, Ray, how many shots do you shoot every single day in the off season? And he looks at me like I'm an idiot. And I'm like, I know, it's like 2,000, right? And he goes, no, I shoot 0. And I'm like, dude, Ray Allen, you shoot 0 shots a day in the off season? He's like, yeah, I'm 35 years old, man. I've been playing this game for 20 years. I know how to shoot a basketball. I just get my stroke back right before I got to get out there, and I'm good, right? And so what I'm thinking is that I have in my head, I wanted it so bad since I was 8 years old. And then when I finally get out there, I've created such a huge deal for myself that the basketball was so important that I could now no longer do anything. I was so tight and tense, and it's the guys who didn't care. Like when I knew my brother was gonna be a good pitcher, when I came home from college and all his like All-American awards were like shoved under his bed. Like that's when I knew, like he just doesn't care. He doesn't care as much as a normal person. So then I start thinking, all these guys who don't care are the guys who don't want to come into the weight room. These are the guys who don't like they don't care. The guys who just get fined. Like okay, whatever, $1,000 for not lifting this week. I don't care. Like that's what everybody. That's what the best players on the planet are like. So now I got to think, how is this working? How is this actually? So somebody mentioned to me in a seminar I did the other like 2 weeks ago. He was telling me about the best athlete he knew, and he was like, yeah, he just had the wrong approach. He just had the wrong approach. And I'm starting to think, is that the wrong approach? Or is that the right approach? Because everybody with the right approach sucks. They're the guys who get cut. But the guys with the wrong approach, these are the guys who are killing it. So now I got to figure out what's going on there because I'm a performance coach. My job is to get a performance adaptation, a performance increase out of these guys. So now I need to start looking into the neurology of things. And when I start looking into the neurology of things, a lot of things start happening. Who's familiar with we talked about the vagus nerve here. Any ideas what goes on with the vagus nerve?
Digested.
Okay, yeah, partly.
Heart rate.
Heart rate, yep. So the vagus nerve is very, very cut and dry. It goes down through your brain and it attaches to your inside organs. And heart rate variability, you've probably done some stuff with heart rate variability training. And really what that's judging is the vagal tone, like what's going on with your vagus nerve at that time. And the vagus nerve, as things get, as your body senses stress, as your body senses threat, the heart rate becomes very routine, right? So it's like, this is the heartbeat, right? I got stress in my body. There's no variability there. If it is like this, it's like changing all over the place over the course of the 2.5 minute span. That's a lot of variability in somebody's system, right? That's somebody who is able to adapt to stress. It's not somebody who's currently adapting and dealing with stress. And then the other thing that it does is it promotes it is in charge of your personality. It's in charge of your ability to communicate with somebody, your social communication system. It is very much directed by your facial expressions. So if the guy who read Stephen Porges for the polyvagal theory, guy who wrote the book, he just walks around like this all day because he's like, oh, I'm just upregulating my vagus nerve, right? The guy looks like a complete psychopath, but his vagus nerve supposedly is good with that. And but what I see is that like these guys, like when I come into the weight room and I mean business, right? So like I'm here to work out. I'm deadlifting. I'm freaking doing this, right? I mean business, right? Like these guys who like understand that strength and conditioning is a big deal. They mean business. But it's the guys who the NBA guys. I'm not joking you. These guys would like come in the weight room and be like a rear foot elevated split squat, and then they like walk up to the mirror and just start like dancing to themselves, right? And I was like, dude, like, and strength coaches are like, you gotta want it, man. You gotta be disciplined. You gotta do this. And now I'm like, maybe not. Maybe that's not the way to do it. Maybe that is a vagal nerve response that I'm seeing. Because when I'm in the weight room, I'm tense, I'm ready to go. And just by me doing that, I'm perceiving this as a really important situation. I get stressed, I get extended, I get toned up, and now I no longer have that good variability of movement. I can no longer separate, I'm a sagittal person, I can no longer separate my two sides of the body, but Dancing McGee over here is all over with both sides of the body, right? So when I ask him to do a single leg deadlift, he's gonna get hamstrings for days, but I'm really toned up. So when I do a single leg deadlift, I'm gonna get a lot of low back. I'm not gonna get what I need out of it because my vagus nerve is really, really upregulated. Questions on that?
How would you take an approach to changing perception of the weight room to make it less serious?
Okay. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what everything is really going to come down to is the environment, right? So any input that comes into the body can be perceived one of two ways. It's going to either be perceived as safe or it's going to be perceived as dangerous. If somebody walks through that door right now with a machete, we're all set with that. Like we know which way that's going. We know which way that's going. We've got a pretty good indication that Machete Boy coming in here is going to be a danger. It's going to the dangerous pathway, right? On the flip side, if some guy comes in selling candy, maybe it's going to go to the happy. I had to think of something on the spot there. But so it's going to go either one of two ways, right? So you got to think about somebody who would come into the weight room, right? So like say I come into your weight room, you're my strength coach, I come into your weight room, and when I was a kid, I was benching and I dropped the bar on myself, and I had to go to the hospital, like really traumatic experience. And I go in and I look at the program, it says bench. Where's that going? Where's that going?
Dangerous.
Pathway-wise, it's going to go danger. But there's going to be, he's going to come in the weight room and be like, hell yeah, let's bench. Right? So for him, it's going to be a safe, like let's get after it type day. For me, it's going to be dangerous. So the individualistic side of it is a really big deal. But you have to understand that from a neurological standpoint, everything matters, right? So you come into my weight room, and Quinnipiac weight room, right? So it's the best example of a good weight room, right? So you got windows, floor to ceiling, all the way across the backside of the weight room. Natural light for days. It's beautiful. It's clean. Coach B is an inviting guy. He's a really nice guy. But if it was like a dungeon style weight room, right? Like one of those like old YMCA weight rooms where you go downstairs, like that's going to produce a much different response, a much different neurological response. For every single person who's a computer. So it's going to be a lot different for everybody, but you have to appreciate the fact that every input that's coming into your brain matters. So like if I'm coaching you and I have coffee breath, you're going to be like, oh God, coffee breath, right? And that's going to be like a little bit extension, right? And then if, this was a big one for me. I played college basketball. I hate rap, okay? I hate rap. And you can imagine college basketball for me, the weight room experience from a musical standpoint was not ideal, okay? And Coach B, he used to do this all the time. Actually, I say he did it all the time. He literally did it one single time. And the team was like not energetic enough. And he's like, that's it, Sean, get your iPod. And I put my iPod, and I only listen to Kenny Chesney love songs. That's the only thing I'm not joking, that's the only thing I listen to. For whatever reason, like that's what gets me like pumped to lift, is Kenny Chesney love songs. So like we're playing Kenny Chesney love songs, and now it's the best lift of the year for me. I'm all over my hamstrings, right? I'm all over my posterior chain and getting my core going. Oh, but these guys are like screwed up. Like that input comes into their brain. They're like, I don't like this. I'm more extended. I've lost my variability. I've lost the ability to separate both sides of my body. I've lost the ability to be dancing McGee over here. And now all of a sudden, based on the environment alone, you've now created an environment that is not conducive to, this group of guys lifting. So it's tough as a team, in a team setting, right? And so much of it has to do with the experience that you have, or like each athlete is going to have, like growing up. Like for somebody who might have dropped up the bar on them while benching, like that's going to be a neurological thing for them. But you just do the best that you can from an environmental standpoint. You have to keep your weight room clean, make it an inviting place, appeal to all of the senses, like get music on that they might like, right? That the majority is going to like. Make it smell good, right? It's sometimes easier said than done, but like a weight room that smells good from a neurological standpoint, they're gonna have a lot better performance adaptation. That is now a safe environment. It's not an environment that is dangerous to their neurological system. How is that?
Good.
That was good. Yeah, environment is a really big deal. I love that. Any other questions on that?
Probably not realistic, but just in terms of the environment, wouldn't you kind of want environment to match whatever that person is? Like for you, if you get parasympathetic while you're lifting, while you're on the free throw line, it's never going to be a relaxed environment.
100%. So I mean, you would expect like I was long gone, but I would have to get like a psychologist to talk me off the ledge of getting me into a place where I can make a free throw against Cornell. But yeah, you're certainly not going to look to try to get somebody parasympathetic, but you're looking for like, it sounds ridiculous, but in every sense, your body is incapable of deciphering between Machete Man coming in and Tekashi 6ix9ine playing whatever the hell it is that he plays, right? Like it is the same to my brain. Like Machete Man and Tekashi 6ix9ine are the same, right? It's a very simple brain. It can only go one of two ways. So I'm going to have the same reaction. So when Tekashi 6ix9ine's playing, I think it's Machete Man. So now my body's reacting to Machete Man as opposed to like, I'm good, like this is a good environment for me to live. It's not necessarily parasympathetic, but it's being able to have access to everything that I'm supposed to have access to. I think that's a misconception, especially in the PRI world. People are always talking about, why do I want to get parasympathetic in this situation? You don't. Like, I'm just trying to give you access to everything, right? Is there a question back there?
I was just curious, like, wouldn't like being exposed to those type of stimuli like make you better at dealing with them? So, in a way, like, would you want to like rock your body during training, like, damage your vagal tone, and then when it's performance time, like nothing can affect you?
I think maybe in certain situations, like I think about like from a visual standpoint, like like if you were able to practice in front of 20,000 people, it would eventually get desensitized to it. I agree with that. I'm going to say no to that, just because there's going to be a huge, time gap that it's going to take for, like, how old are you?
27.
Okay, so 27 years old, whatever in your neocortex, in your brain, whatever's in there, it was developed over the course of 27 years. So I liken it to the fact of carrying a backpack, okay? And I'm going somewhere with this, trust me. If I'm hiking through the wilderness for like 6 hours in the day, up in like Yellowstone National Park, and I got a big hiking backpack on, and I wear it for 6 hours, and then I finally take it off. I'm gonna feel like this huge, literally a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. I'm gonna feel very light, right? And how long is that gonna last for? 15 minutes maybe, right? When you're carrying groceries, same thing. Everybody carries all the groceries from the car into the house. And then when you pick up your coffee mug right after, it feels like a feather. So that time under tension model it applies the same thing, same way neurologically. So if you, for example, have hated the weight room, let's just random example, right? Or you hated rap, right? For 27 years. That is wearing a neurological backpack of stress, time under that tension for 27 years. So realistically, I'm gonna have a couple of years of tension after wearing that backpack, of that weightlessness feeling, where that's like the residual effect of all that. So I think probably from a realistic standpoint, the length is too long. I probably don't have that. I probably don't have that opportunity to make that change. I think in theory that works, but I think in the trenches, that like you could literally, like in the NBA, I was like, one of our guys was like 39. I can't. What can I do with that? Like if something is really embedded in your neocortex, I mean, this could be a long haul. I mean, realistically. So I think in theory that works, but and then the other thing, like rolling off of that, would be that all of the best athletes that I've ever seen. I think this is the biggest thing that you can ever truly understand about the strength and conditioning field. If you're dealing with athletics, if you're dealing with somebody who just wants to get maybe strong, like Jet Pop, somebody who's just trying to get jacked, fine. But in athletics, all of the best athletes that I know are not that strong. They're like I couldn't believe, I was 100%. Like if they had a team weightlifting session, I would have 100% been the strongest guy in the Lakers. And I'm nothing to write home about. Like I'm not like benching like 500 pounds, but these guys were just not that strong. Like we had Metal World Peace on the team, who at the time was like he was always like the NBA bad boy and like the strong. It was like guys were saying like he's the strongest guy in the NBA, and I saw him get like 3 reps on 80-pound dumbbells. And like this is the strongest guy. Everyone's like, "Oh man, you're so strong." And I'm like, "What?" Right? And so I'm wondering, what I'm starting to realize is that these guys, they're actually not that strong. Maybe relative for their sport, but these are not the guys. The NBA players, I'm telling you, you would be shocked at how easy their workouts are and how hard they think they are. Like they're really, like we're talking like real sample workout. 2x10 goblet, 2x10 TRX row. 2x10 side plank, or 2x30-second side plank, 2x10 one-arm dumbbell row, 2x5 dead bugs, 2x5 leg lowers. Bye, go play the Warriors. Bye, have fun. And they leave. They're like, oh my god, and like that's what it is. And what I'm seeing is that like when pure IQ, right, I get somebody in an adduction drop, like their ability to truly be a neutral person, somebody who has triplanar action. I get somebody, all of these guys, the best athletes, the guys who could jump 45 inches, the guys who could throw 102 miles an hour, these guys move really, really cleanly, and they're pretty weak in the weight room. So what I'm appreciating the fact is that for athletics, for people who are performance-based people, having variability, appreciating 2 sides of the body, not chasing weight room numbers, that is literally how you become a good athlete. That's what all these great athletes are. I mean, if there's anything that you leave with today, if you want to work with athletes, these guys are not insanely strong. They don't. I've worked in pro sports. for 7 years, and I've not a single time programmed a deadlift. I programmed a squat for Timofey Mozgov because he just wanted to feel big one time. It was 135. He's 7'1", 135, right? Like that's nothing. That's nothing. And that's the difference between what I think people think strength and conditioning is and what actually becomes what actually produces a high level athlete. I think the absolute #1 single greatest trait that I have as a strength and conditioning coach is my ability to step back from any situation and be very objective about what I'm looking at. I remember my first year when I was up in Montana, Coach B, this is what we used to do with Coach B. I got bad dorsiflexion, here we go, right? I'm just gonna jam in my ankle until I get an ankle dorsiflexion. And we do this for like a year, and nobody would ever get more ankle dorsiflexion. I'm like, objective strength coach here, what the hell am I doing? Like, is this actually helpful? And then I think neurologically, from that standpoint, it's like, did your ankles just decide to tighten up? Right? Like if that's what I'm doing, if I'm approaching it this way, I'm looking at a very pinpoint, right? I'm just assuming that my ankle ligaments just got super tight, as opposed to thinking that I actually got tight for a reason, right? Then like backtracking and figuring out the reason that I got tight. Maybe it's because my calves had taken over for piss poor hamstring strength, right? And there's all sorts of reasons for that. But I think it really just goes to show that the importance of appreciating two sides of the body, appreciating variability, and probably the biggest part of all of it, and I think sports science is big right now. Sports like technology, especially in the NBA, like everybody wants to, in every single arena there's a GPS tracking system for the players. And like, I'm just like looking at this and it's like, yo, Swaggy P ran a mile today. And I'm like, sick. And it's like, this guy ran 6. And you're like, yeah, I could tell that our shooting guard ran more than our 7'1" center. Like, thanks for that update, buddy. And it's just and it's just like feeding you all these like scientific data, and it really doesn't do anything. Like, I have not seen anything sports science-wise. I will be willing to stand in front of the camera and say I have not seen anything sports science-wise that has done anything like literally good. Yeah, anybody got one that they want to throw on the table that you actually you believe in? All right. You get ugly in here. You got it.
Force plates to determine return to play protocols for injured athletes.
Say it again.
Force plates to determine return to play protocols for injured athletes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say I'll put a clause on that and say that's like for therapy, like injuries, right?
So you mean like performance-based,
right? Like I'll give you an HRV monitor, but I'll argue that at the same time. But I think that's where the world is. But where I think the world is going, I think there's going to be a huge recovery when you guys are getting out of school or when you guys get into the industry here. I think the next wave is recovery, because I think that's what matters. And I think if you dive into the really smart coaches that are out there right now, recovery is lurking. Well, being able to recover is lurking, right? If I am an NBA strength coach, and we're playing 82 games, play one night here, take a day, play the next night. I'll tell you a very real road trip that we had when I was in LA. We practiced in LA, and after practice we flew to New Orleans. We played the next night in New Orleans. After the game we flew to Chicago. We played Chicago the next day. After the game we flew to Toronto. We had an off day in Toronto, then we played the following night in Toronto. Then right after the game we flew to Memphis. After we flew to Memphis, after we played in Memphis, we got on the plane and flew back to LA. So we had 4 games, 5 nights, 3 different time zones. And by the time we got back, we were in shambles, right? And what does that do for a 4-week periodized strength and conditioning program? What can you expect to get out of that? Nothing, right? There is absolutely no way you're going to be able to get, because what you need is the recovery time to create that adaptation. Like, I'm asking for it in the weight room, and during my recovery time is when I will receive that adaptation. But the recovery time doesn't exist. I'm on the plane, I'm flying all over the place, changing time zones, playing Dwayne Wade, I think he was on Bulls at the time, and then like just no recovery whatsoever, right? So, but the best NBA strength coaches were the guys who could screw around with some stuff and create recovery because they understand that I can't get somebody on a back squat when the best workout they can get is a nap, right? And that's real. Like it is not heavy squatting because we're trying to get into the hamstrings. It is heavy napping because I'm trying to get into REM cycle. Like that's NBA strength and conditioning. NBA strength and conditioning is understanding that I need to get more into flexion. I need to be able to pull myself out of this chronic state of extension that everybody's in, because back here it's compressing the sympathetic trunk in my spine every time I'm extended, and as long as I'm like this, I can never access true parasympathetic state. Right now we're talking. Now I want somebody parasympathetic after the game when they get on the plane, right? Not in the weight room, not when they're playing, because I'm in this position. I can never do it. I'm looking at my phone all the time, right? I'm in focal vision. That is sympathetic drive of the eyes. So what do I do as this strength coach who is objective and having a mind for this? Over the urinals, I put the magic eye puzzles. You guys know what magic eye puzzles are? It's these puzzles. This is like this picture you look at, and it looks like nonsense. But if you unlock your eyes, like an image, a 3D image pops out. If you Google it, you'll see it. It's actually pretty interesting. But the only way you can see it is if you unlock your eyes and access parasympathetic tone from your eyes. And so while I'm trying to give them a situation for while they are staring at the wall, they're able to get a little parasympathetic activation, let their eyes unlock. When I was with the Lakers, I put a Space Jam Magic Eye book on the table. And guys didn't know what it was. They were like, yo, this is sick, man. It's Bugs Bunny. Look at this, man. Bugs Bunny. And the whole time, they're unlocking their eyes. They're getting parasympathetic activity in their eyes. They think they're screwing around. I'm over there like, oh, yeah, I'm so good at this. Like, this is perfect. Look, these guys are getting exactly what I want out of them. They're getting their eyes unlocked. Same thing goes with your ears, right? So the inside your ears, there's these little tiny muscles. I believe it's the stapedius and the tensor tympani. And they get locked, just like the eyes get locked into focal vision, they get locked into focal hearing. And if you listen to Mozart, it goes, he goes really, really soft, and then really, really loud, and then really, really soft, and then really, really soft, and then medium, and what those muscles are supposed to do is they're supposed to let in certain amounts of frequency when you're listening to music. And if you're always listening to the same stuff, you're listening to headphones, it'll close it off because you don't need to get much. It's trying to limit the amount of frequency that's coming into your ears. So if you get stuck like that, you're always doing that, you'll get stuck in that focal hearing, and now you can't hear stuff that's far, and it's like, oh God, I'm losing my hearing. I'm 26 and I'm losing my hearing. But that has nothing, that's nothing. All it is I just keep listening to my headphones and those muscles are tight. So how can I do some PT on my stapedius and my tensor tympani? You listen to Mozart, who always goes, really, really slow. I got to hear far. Now I got to hear really close, far. And now these muscles are literally doing reps as you listen to Mozart. So what do I have to do as the strength and conditioning coach? So I got to find ways to pipe Mozart into like the bathroom stalls or something like that, so that they're getting this somehow. Because I also got to think about when they're in the weight room, they can't listen to Mozart because then they're going to be all sorts of bothered about the Mozart. But it's just appreciating the entirety of the environment. It's appreciating the fact that recovery is really what the deal is. I think it's really important to keep in mind that I've been lifting since before high school, and I've pretty much been benching the same amount for like 10 years, probably more. And like if I've been lifting, my training age is so big or so high that it takes so much. It takes such a huge effort to get a really small improvement of my weight room gains. And the only way that I'm really going to be able to make these improvements is if I'm able to look at the neurological system. I'm able to look at everything, and then and then attack it from that angle, as opposed to like, okay, well, you know what? Like, we just got to lift more. We got to do more eccentrics. We got to do more plyos to get in there. Like, yeah, those things help, but when we're talking about elite level stuff, you got to be looking at all of it. I think the neurological side of it is by far the most important thing, and I think it's coming. We got any questions?
So would you say a guy like Mike Trout is an outlier in the MLB because he's a really good player, but it's obvious that he works his ass off and the guy's huge?
Define works his ass off.
like you look at him in comparison to some other center fielders, and he's built like a brick house. Like he looks like he's playing fullback for the New York Giants.
Okay.
Like you
So,
can't.
so I mean, I'd say on the surface, I think a lot of professional athletes get credit for working hard, but to us, to weight room folks, not so much. Now I don't know Mike. I don't know what he does, right? But at the same time, like, do you think Mike Trout lifts more aggressively than you do?
Maybe.
Maybe, right? Maybe, but to size-wise, he's huge, right? So I don't think he's probably working as hard as people give, as much credit as you give him. I also, if you come up to me after we got cameras on, I'll tell you a story about Mike that might lead you down a different path. But like, I bet if you met him, he would be like a funky dude. Like, I bet his personality's a tinge off, right? And not to say off, but he's a little different, right? He's in public, and he'll do things that are a little off the wall. Like, dude, why did you do that? And I don't know that he does that. I don't know that he does that. But like, I bet he does. I bet it's like he just does stuff that's a little. You ever meet like a famous person or a professional athlete, and it's always like, dude, like, I would never do that in public, but for some reason you did, right? Like I bet you that neurologically he's able to go both sides, because from a neurological standpoint, like, he's a big dude, and I think you'd probably be surprised at how hard he works. Hypothesis, I bet you'd be surprised at how quote unquote hard it is. Just given my experience, it's watching. We had a guy with the Diamondbacks, Paul Goldschmidt, right? And he was freaking huge, right? But he didn't do anything like crazy, like, and everyone would talk about how hard he works, and like how he does this, that, and that. And great player, works hard, but it's not like the hard work that I was doing when I was a kid, and the hard work that I was told I have to do, like a Gatorade commercial would show you, right? Where it's like the social media paints the picture of everybody leaves the gym, time for me to run some stadiums. I gotta be grinding, I gotta want it, and I was like, oh, I gotta do more reps. Like, that's what we're portrayed to be doing. That's not happening. I'll promise you it's not
Can I
happening.
follow up my
Sure.
question? So, like your mentality about like the guys who are like really good may have like a aversion from the weight room or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Is that more specific to baseball and basketball? Because like there's videos of like Saquon Barkley power cleaning like 400 pounds. Like, you can't like
Yeah.
just get there, but like by being lazy.
Well, I do think football is a special circumstance,
Okay.
because you have to be. There's no PRI course. There's no PRI integration for a refrigerator-shaped gentleman plowing you down, right? That does not exist. So I have to be as strong as I can, regardless, because that's injury prevent. Doesn't matter if you listen to Mozart in the weight room when Ray Lewis is barreling down on you, right? Like that is what it is. I think from a sports standpoint, yeah, I think baseball guys are much more, I want to lift, I want to squat and deadlift. I think that probably stems a little bit from the steroid era. Like, guys, like their idols, like the guys who are up right now, their idols are Mark McGuire's and the Barry Bonds and these guys are humongous. So these guys do want to lift a little bit more, but basketball guys want to do the stuff that looks cool, right? I remember D'Angelo Russell. We had him in the weight room one time, and it was in training camp, and he was doing like Spider-Man push-ups, you know, these things, and like NBA TV, it was like their day to come in and film our camp, and they like get right up next to him, and now he's going hard, right? And I'm like, I turned to the other strength coach, and I was like every kid in the country is going to be doing these Spider-Man push-ups. Like, and it would have been me. I would have been like, that's the move. That's the NBA move right there. And I'm like, what the hell is a Spider-Man push-up do, right? Nothing. And I think from sport to sport, it does change, but I think every single person in this room would be really surprised at what hard work is classified as at a professional level, and I 100% believe that it's not wrong. It's not the wrong approach. It is the right approach. Any other questions there?
Well, it's more skill applicable, but how do you think that argues with a lot of people's mastery theory, where you have to do practice and then tons and tons of
You mean like
application?
the was it the 10,000 hour rule?
Yeah.
Was it a 40,000 hour rule?
Extreme talent.
I mean, I think that definitely plays a role. I think that is super helpful for a lot of people. I think the 10,000 hour rule. I think a lot of the things that we're taught as kids are geared towards the real world setting. I think the 10,000 hour rule probably excludes the fact that 20,000 people that might be watching me doing this event. I think in baseball it's like 40, 50,000 people in the stands. I think it excludes that, and I haven't researched it a ton. Which book was that?
Mainly from Metallica.
Okay, yeah, and so, I mean, absolutely. Of course, it's going to play a role, but I do think that the idea that 20,000 people could be watching me perform this task is probably not the same thing. I think that's probably where you step away from it a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just a lot of examples they use are.
Like a
it's
Kobe
not
Bryant?
sports, but not Kobe Bryant, but maybe famous cello players or dance performers where they're
Yeah.
performing in front of hundreds of thousands.
Yeah,
of
and I
people.
mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. It's one of the examples people give me all the time is Kobe Bryant, right? And I'm like, all right, yeah, he like works harder than everybody else, but I think that's extremely rare. Like I think he did the 10,000 hours and he's capable. Like he has that mindset. I think there's probably a lot of celloists who do. Is it cellists? Who probably did close to that and probably didn't make it because they get too nervous. How many people just like get nervous in situations like that, like public speaking, for example? Like people hate public speaking, right? And I've certainly spent probably around 10,000 hours on this material, but if I'm rattled to speak in front of you guys, like, man, I really just walked myself into this. This is great. The vagal nerve, right? When the vagus nerve gets regulated, I'm perceiving a threat like you guys are threatening me, and now all of a sudden it shuts down because I can no longer access that part of my brain. It's like you ever see the teenage, Nickelodeon shows where the guy calls up the girl to ask her out, and he's just like, hi, this is Sean. Don't, oh my God, what do you want to maybe, you know what I'm talking about? It's like that's the vagus nerve, and it's like. He probably, and in the show, they show it. He stands in front of his mirror and he's just like, what's up? Like, you want to go out with me tonight? Like, hey, you want to go out with me tonight? But when the vagus nerve kicks in, it's a whole different story. Guys, please tell the story of that example I just gave. That was awesome. What other questions we got?
So you talked about tailoring the environment to promote recovery. How about doing the same thing for like game prep? Same thing with like when bees and all those like neuro charges that he does. Like you think there's some value to that where
I'm not familiar with his neuro stuff.
So like he'll like do like high like low frequency, high intensity exercises to get them prepared and get their CNS prepared for that game that day. But at the same time, like I wouldn't want to disrupt an athlete's like pre-game like ritual.
Yeah, agreed.
So I don't know if you like.
Well, I think so. I think the college strength and conditioning world is so much different than the pros, right? B's gonna have guys in there, and it's gonna be a routine. Like you don't screw with B because you can do burpees, right? In the NBA, you're not really. It's like, yo, you want a foam roll? No, okay. Like that's more of the NBA status, right? And it's like I don't think college strength and conditioning pays homage to the neurological side of it. And I think like when he says neuro, he's not thinking the same neuro as I'm thinking. He's probably thinking of like neuromuscular.
Yes.
I'm thinking of neurological like environment. I'm thinking of neurological like neocortical associations with what's going on in the world around me. I'm thinking of the ability to perform in front of 20,000 people. I think classic strength and conditioning is promoting people who are not going to be able to perform in front of 20,000 people. I think they're promoting people that will get nervous in front of 20,000 people. I think when you're a disciplinarian strength coach, somebody who's like hardcore, in your face, classic football style, I think you are promoting somebody who is not going to be good in front of 20,000 people. I 100% believe that. It's the NBA style where it's like, hey man, do you maybe want to lift? Like when I had a guy who did not want to lift, like I remember one guy in baseball, in the big leagues, right? Guy didn't want to lift. And I was like, well, I can't get on this guy because I have to pay respect to the fact that his mindset helps him perform. He was like doing behind the back double play turns in front of 50,000 people. And like I had to pay respect to that, so what I do is I take masking tape and I draw arrows on the ground to make like a joke, like, haha, you never come to the weight room, but seriously, you never come to the weight room. And that's like, I'm paying homage to the fact that this is his mindset, and I'm not gonna get on him. And that's a lot different than the neuromuscular, like, adaptation side of, that's classic strength, right? That's the neuro mind of the classic strength. I've really stemmed off the fact that from the real world standpoint, I'm watching these guys who don't wanna work out and don't work out, and then they're, and like, how am I supposed to preach that you gotta work out all the time when these guys who don't are the ones who are scoring 40, getting the freaking $20 million signing bonuses, and like, those are the guys who are doing great, and like, how do I really say that that's what gets you to do it when it's not? And then I have to find that performance adaptation, because that is in fact my job, right? So that's what led me to the neuro side of it, the real world situation of hey, this isn't working. The people that are doing this are failing, and I gotta figure that out. And I think you are way ahead of the curve if you are thinking from that side of the neurological system. If you're able to step back and be that objective strength coach and appreciate what you're seeing out there, I think you're so far ahead of anybody else. I really do.
Say you have an underperforming athlete out on the court, out on the field, but there's someone who really loves the weight room and may be amping himself up too much and then underperforming out on the field. Do you
Right.
ever suggest to them to take a step back?
You gotta be
out of the
careful.
weight room?
You gotta be, I mean, that might be a thing, but, so one of the things that I was always cautious about was like the psychological aspect of it. Like, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trained in that. I never talked to my brother about baseball because I didn't want him to be, like my brother told me one time, you guys know the show Practical Jokers? My brother, Sal, is by far the best guy on that show. My brother told me, did you ever see the one where he's the hibachi chef? Come on, guys. He's a hibachi chef. He's a fake hibachi chef, and they make him say, before he does like a volcano, they make him say, prepare for something amazing, right? And my brother literally told me one time that he was at, like, playing the White Sox or something, and he was on the mound, and he was just like, prepare for something amazing. And I'm like, you're thinking about these things when you play. So I was always rattled about saying anything that could make him think that when he played. So I would be careful about how I would approach it. I'd probably try to trick him into not doing it as much. But again, like a guy like that, if he's in the NBA or if he's in college, it's probably too late. Like you probably have to say, okay, like your ceiling probably isn't what it could have been. It is what it is now, which is maybe marginally more improved, right? Sucks, but it's the reality of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Questions?
So, in your head, if you had like, if somebody said, hey, I have this like 5-year-old son, and I want him to play NFL or something.
Sure.
What are you doing to set him up?
Great question. So, I mean, I think first of all, you can't force them into it. NFL is a little bit interesting in the sense that you could be a lineman and probably be fairly sympathetic, and you could be nervous and probably get away with it. I'll tell you right now, my kid will be in the NBA, and he's going to be amazing. I'll be actually dropping him immediately. His hamstrings are legit. He'll be diaphragmatically breathing all over the place. But you want to create a world where he feels comfortable. When he leaves the practice gym, he feels comfortable. He is recovering, right? I think I had a dad ask me one time at a baseball thing I was doing, and he said, you spent the last hour talking about all the do's and don'ts of the weight room, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the high school baseball coach pulls all the baseball players together and does literally every single thing you just said not to do. What do I do? And it's like, you're kind of screwed, right? Like, is that guy now owns your son? And he could say, like, if you're like, no, I don't like you, I don't like what you say, like, I'm not gonna lift with the team. Then he's like, oh, screw you then, you're not playing on the team. And then maybe he was a professional baseball player, never will be now. You're kind of at the mercy of that. You hope that their coaches are good. I'm gonna have a hard time with my kids' coaches, because if I think they're like yelling at him, like screwing up his neocortex, right? Stop doing that. Like, I'm gonna have a problem with that because I'm gonna see that stuff. But honestly, I think you just create the most comfortable environment for them, and you know, encourage them to get better, but not like be really go to the beach, have fun. Like, enjoy this, enjoy the fact that you're playing basketball, like, enjoy the fact that you're playing NFL, and then you cross your fingers, hope for the best, because, I mean, you really have to fall, so many things have to break in the right direction. One of the things I say, not to kids anymore, for obvious reasons, but when people ask me how to get to the NBA, I say, get a PlayStation, because this is ridiculous. Like, they're unicorns, they don't exist. Like, they're insane, they're literally insane. And like all these pro athletes, things have to go really right for you. But I think from a strength and conditioning standpoint, I'm making sure that they're not doing anything crazy. Like, I would rather you do nothing. I would rather every single time a professional athlete come to me and say, I've never weightlifted in my life, than I have 5 years of weightlifting experience, and those are like, here we go, this is gonna be some shit, right? Like, this is gonna suck. And so I would, if they're gonna do anything, like, I'd probably just like, okay, just do some lunges, you know, paddle off pressing, cable rotations, TRX row, like, let's screw around, but I don't want to build unnecessary tone. I want you to be super free. If you guys look at an NBA player, we had NBA players who look crazy skinny, like, look sick, and like, and that's an NBA player. If you don't need to be big and strong, you just need to be fit for the sport. And I think the best thing a young baseball player can do is go through a Major League Baseball clubhouse while the guys are getting changed and see that it is truly dad bod central. Like, the MLB players are just dad bods all over the place, and everybody thinks you need to be jacked and strong to be in the MLB, and it is so far the opposite. And I think understanding that, I think the weight room in that regard is overrated. I think I've had players come to me like, I'm gonna spend 2 hours a day in the weight room when I'm in the off season, and appreciate it, buddy. 2 hours a day in the weight room, you know, in the off season. Like, what? What are you gonna do? What is that gonna get you? And people think that that's gonna make them a better athlete or a better baseball player. I say, like, go do what you gotta do. Be injury resilient. You know, this guy's a pro athlete. He's not gonna improve his miles an hour at 10 miles an hour. Go do what you do what you have to do, and then go watch film or something. Because that's probably much more likely how you're gonna get a performance adaptation than working on your squat numbers. Anybody who works on their squat numbers is probably not a professional athlete. And that's speaking from experience. And NFL, probably not. But baseball, basketball, truly experience. Literally, it's not happening. You put squat on there, guys will leave. It's just, they don't do it. So it's a tightrope. If it happens, a lot of things got to go right.
Just like as you're speaking, I'm kind of like having a thought, so kind of just wanted to like throw it out there.
Work it out.
The sports that you're describing as like the athletes don't need to be doing this or that are kind of like the other ones. I feel like that get discussed in strength and conditioning too, that are like your tennis, your golf, where the athletes traditionally don't have a huge you know, culture of lifting and may or may not want to train just depending on the group. But I wonder if there's something to the fact that like a sport like basketball, like you have to be able to flow and you have to be able to move and like do it kind of like on a dime and also be creative with your movement. And if you're too stiff, like you can't really do that.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering if there's even just like kind of differences in terms of sports and really like their needs. So like football, right, you were saying you can't get away with like not being strong or big, and we can do those things in a weight room sense, but I'm just wondering like if some of these like cultures and stuff occur because of just the different kind of natures of the sport. Or like tennis, right? You have to flow, like you don't just
100%.
like hit the ball really hard.
I mean, I think from what I understand, soccer players
soccer
don't like. Well, one of my buddies is the coach for the Houston Dynamo, and he says he has to like fake it, pretend like they're not. They have to do like strength and conditioning on the field because once in the weight room, they get rattled at it, right? It's going to make them like not as fast or something. And I think so. And I think the important thing to understand from a strength and conditioning standpoint is, tennis guys are going to need certain things, right? They're going to need rotator cuff work, core work. They're going to need certain stuff. But at the end of the day, like they don't need to be squatting a ton. They probably don't need to be deadlifting. Maybe a little bit here and there, but it's a transverse. If it's a transverse sport, if you're spending too much time in the sagittal plane, you're gonna go out of it. But I digress a little bit. But I think you're 100% correct. Is that good?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of off of that, have you had any experience with hockey? Because you have a lot of really strong guys, but that sport is also a sport that's like very like flow oriented, like being able
Yeah, I mean, I think everything really relates back to gait in that sense. I think the way I train everybody is trying to make them as efficient in gait as possible. Like I think about a baseball player, and I'm talking about like they stand up tall on this leg, and they're probably going to be a little bit on the outside of their foot, and then they got to find their big toe, their arch. They come through. Left adductor has to kick on, right adductor has to turn off, and that's just I'm just pushing off in gait, right? And then it's the whole thing. Like I have to be able to fill this chest wall with air as I come through, and I'm compressing this side, this chest wall without air as I come through. It's really just gait. At hockey, one thing that's interesting about hockey is it's just not going to get any internal rotation in their hips. So you're kind of up against the wall there. But the one thing to consider, I think, on that sense, is that optimal health and performance are not one and the same, right? You're never going to get. It would be unlikely for you to get a high-level hockey player like neutral. They would never probably get back to that state. It's just different. They've chosen to migrate off of that like optimal health standpoint. Did that answer your question? I feel like I just went on a whole nother tangent.
I was more so talking about how like your basketball, your soccer guys, like they're very like it's a very like organic sport, whereas
Okay.
in football is very stop and start. So like there might even be more direct neurological carryover to the weight room where everything's stop and start. But hockey is a very continuous sport,
Right.
but the weight room is very stop and start. So like I was wondering if you had seen like a lot of hockey guys who were like, I don't want to lift, and they're like, very good at hockey, but then at the same time, if you're not big enough in hockey, you get flattened.
I've seen very few hockey guys. I used to hang with the LA Kings guy in LA, and he said that my impression of what hockey guys are is that they all work pretty hard. I really can't speak to hockey, I've never really seen them. But from what I hear, Coach B tells me the same thing. Like hockey guys typically work super hard, and I wouldn't be able to say neurologically how that plays with those guys because I just never really worked with them. I worked with like one hockey guy ever.
So you talk a lot about like ear muscles and as far as like smell and everything
Sure.
like that. Do you think optimizing the sensory experience that the players have, whether it's in the weight room or whatever it might be, is going to be best for the adaptation process?
100%.
that they're doing?
100%. Because if you nailed it, that's so right. Because if you walk in, if I have a great sensory experience when I walk into the weight room, I'm now free. There's no, I call it the neural emergency brake theory, right? We all ride, we're driving the car, and we realize that we don't have the giddy up that we usually have. It's because the emergency brake's on, we release it, all of a sudden we're good to go again. Neurologically, same thing's happening. Depending on how much stress and threat I perceive, our body puts down the emergency brake. And now I'm not gonna have the same giddy up. You ever have, like I used to have a day when I played AU hoops, like some days I'd just be crushing dunks, and other days I could barely do it. And it's just a matter of the emergency brake. It's not one day or the other. It's however much threat is perceived. So if I walk in the weight room and and sensorily, I'm good, I'm loving it, I'm gonna have all that capacity. The emergency brake can be released and I'm good. I can have full capacity with what I do. Same thing, if I go home and like my home life sucks, I go home and now I'm like stressed. Right, and now I'm not recovering. I'm not able to produce the right adaptation that I want. Weight room is great, but I'm missing it at home. I'm missing the 3 days or the 1 day, 2 days recovery period to get that adaptation that I want. But if my home life is great, I'm checking both boxes. I'm able to get everything I need out of a weight room, and then I can truly get a good sleep. I'm getting good nutrition. I'm getting everything that I need from a recovery standpoint. And sensorily, I think that's where they miss it. I mean, that's where we talk about not having a TV in the bedroom, turning it off like 2 hours before you go to bed, going to sleep and rising with the sun. Like those are all things that will produce a great sensory output in your life. So that's where I say everything that comes into the body is going to be deciphered as safe or dangerous. Same thing goes when you're home. I think that's a absolutely massive thing that is really not being paid much attention to because it's playing just as much of a role as what's happening in the weight room as when you go home. If you go to my bathroom in my apartment, I tried to make it look like you are in a Ritz-Carlton. And that's like, it's just, I got this like weird wooden light. I got like the sticks that come out. And to be fair, it had nothing to do with recovery, but I'm getting that when I'm in my bed, I'm brushing my teeth and it smells great. And like, hey, this is awesome. But if it smelled like a bathroom, completely different ball game. Now I sense threat because it can only go 1 of 2 ways.
So from a sensory experience, environmentally, that's everything. That's the only thing that counts, is everything that's coming from a sensory system going one of two ways. And if it's danger, I'm stressed, I'm not getting what I need to get. If I'm safe, I'm good.
The emergency brake, as you pointed, is there like a way to consciously control that, or is that just gonna react?
So yeah, I mean, you would say, like for me, like when I go home, I'm gonna listen to Kenny Chesney on the way home, so it's gonna be a pleasant ride. If I listen to Takashi 69, it's not gonna be as pleasant a ride. Like I'm appreciating what appeals to my senses. You know, things that smell good to you, like you can go to Yankee Candle. What candle? I love vanilla cupcake. Okay, it's my favorite flavor. Maybe it's not yours. That's appealing. Do you have a favorite?
Mint.
Mint?
I always like mint.
I didn't know they had mint.
Yankee Candle?
Yeah, mint. Mint? Hey, I mean, mint's a good smell. I didn't know they had a candle. But it would be, you'd have to appeal to your senses. Music, what you're feeling, what you're smelling, what you're seeing. Understanding that the visual system is a lot more dominant than any other system, right? And you can see, it's easy to see, man. Like if I walked in here and like, can you touch your toes? Can you bend down and touch your toes? So come in from here. Let's see if we can screw with that. So just bend down, touch your toes. That's as far as you got. Okay, so you're kind of far there. If you stand on one foot, you go down and touch your toe with your right foot, but with your right hand, not with your left foot. Yeah. Okay, come back up, and now do the same thing, eyes closed. Okay, so I'd have to do a lot more with you to actually screw with it. So what I see there is his visual system is fine. Like I wouldn't, you don't strike me as somebody whose visual system is overactive. So what I would see if I come down and I do it like that, I would expect you to wobble some more when you come back down. But if you're like I can't even do this, then I'm saying your visual system is a major player. Your sensory stuff, there's no sensory trick that would change you right now. So apologize. No show. No show. But what you would see is a situation like, well, for example, I had a guy do a very similar test, like bend down, touch your toes, and then we started talking about like what kind of stuff do you like, and he tells me that he loves Christmas, right? And I was like, sweet, what's your favorite Christmas song? He tells me some like Bing Crosby song. Pull it up on the speaker, check it out. He's like, oh yeah, Christmas with the family, so much of cookies, and then he comes back down, and I was like, touch your toes, and now he's way further down. And it's because his body is no longer, I've appealed to that particular sense. Same thing goes with the phone, or same thing goes with your eyes, and more so with your eyes. If you have somebody who can't do that with their eyes closed, you probably got somebody who's extremely visually dominant, and that's what's dominating their system. And then you have to think about visually, what can I do to screw with that pattern, to take him out of being able to use his eyes. I think some like Russian weightlifters or something do lights off lifting, which is interesting. A little dangerous, but interesting. I've invented an exercise, a test. I encourage you all to do it. This is the weirdest thing you've ever heard. But if you have somebody who's like that, and you have them take a, like I first had them do it with a sawed-off broomstick. Have them pretend that they're blind and just walk around the weight room, right? And I'd be like, I'm gonna throw stuff in your way, and I'm gonna put like foam rollers and stools in your way, and just have them go through the weight room. If you have anybody who is like walks like this on their toes, immediately will go away when they do the blind man, as they call it. And if somebody's visually dominant, it dampens the visual system, eliminates it, and now they have to navigate through their environment with their ears, nose, and their feet. You want to get somebody grounded, close their eyes, because now all of a sudden these people they'll never come more off the ground than just a quarter of an inch, because they need to feel that to get through the world. And if you want to see some like table tests turn, do the blind man test. It is fascinating how quickly you can make HGIR full and complete off of just having somebody pretend like they're blind, getting rid of their visual system and awakening the rest. Really, I mean, it's stunning when we get somebody do it. I've had a lot of success with people just grinding their teeth at night with that trick. So if you grind your teeth at night, you saw a broomstick, have at it. Questions?
When, in a situation where you're flying from coast to coast, whatever it might
Sure.
be, different time zones and all that stuff, is there any tips or tricks that you would use in order to get your players to sleep?
Yeah, you know what, honestly, in that situation, you appreciate that it's just not gonna happen, it's gonna be really tough, so you do everything that you can. So like for us, we had buffets set up at the hotels when we got in, of all great food, it's as good food as we would think that they would eat. Like if you put salads out, you're not gonna eat it, they'll just order Jimmy John's. And so you have to meet them in the middle somewhere, but you just do you give them every opportunity, go up to them after practice, what's bothering you? Calf, all right, get on the table, let's work the calf out. And just like every opportunity to recover, but it's so much of it is how do they perceive me? When I worked in baseball, the number one way I knew I was doing a good job was when there would be a rain delay and all the guys would hang out in the weight room and screw around, because I knew that was a safe environment for them then. If they were hanging out in the clubhouse or not in there, I would think that this is not an environment that's conducive to like a good, relaxed, two-side of the body state. That's when I knew. So it's just like, hey, what's up? Like let's be buddies. Like let's I want to be a safe when my neocortex sees you, I need to think that you're safe. I need to think that you're out for me. You're here to help, as opposed to like a guy who's just like, shit, I gotta lift again. Oh, I hate this. Oh, it's gonna be so hard today. Like I understand that there's times where it needs to be hard in the weight room, but the fact that like how do I view you neurologically is the whole game, right? When I worked in baseball, I would always say, like, when do you want to lift, man? After the game, before the game, during the game? We'll sneak it in, man. I'm out of baseball now, so I can say this. A couple times during games, I would take guys on walks to like a deli near, like they had to condition before the game, and then they would like they would come in, they had to work out during the game. Everybody was outside, it was just us two working out in the clubhouse, and we would go to the deli and get like sandwiches and chocolate milk. And I had that guy forever. I mean, that guy's, I'm the safest environment that guy could ever have. So, I mean, honestly, like I wasn't trying to do that, but that's what I was doing. Like neurologically, that guy will do anything I ask him to do, because that one time in Great Falls, Montana, we went out to get roast beef sandwiches and chocolate milk in the middle of the game. And it's that interaction, it's that environment, like what happens when I see you. So like when he comes in the weight room at the end, after that long road trip, and he sees me, it's not like, shit. Like if he comes up to me and he's like, I just don't want to lift. I'm like, all right, man, get out of here. See ya. And just appreciate the situation. The safe environment is, and that level is everything. Everything. Best pro level strength coaches are the people who can manufacture recovery out of thin air. Those guys are already elite, but can you do it every single night? If you can do it every single night, you win. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
So with sports that you're never going to keep someone neutral in, how much do you focus on that? Sort of
I mean,
aspect
still a
right there?
ton. I think at the collegiate level where they're not playing as many games, you don't have to do, it probably doesn't need to be as like percentage down. Like in the NBA, I'm focusing like 80% of what I do on recovery. And these guys are still not going to get neutral. But in collegiate side, I probably maybe only have to do like 50, because it's not as, there's not many games, it's not as stressful. But I'm still doing it a ton. You have to appreciate the fact, like I think about strong men all the time, right? Like guys who are lifting, who can squat like 1,000 pounds. Like these guys, when they go home, they are now, like these guys don't make a lot of money. So you ever watch the strongman docs on Netflix? Like they're living in like some guy's tool shed, and they're eating just the entire cow for dinner, and like their home life is just very like there's nothing appealing to my senses about that. Like, it's probably not a very good place to recover, and there's no world's strongest man that is ever. You're never gonna get what's the guy? Who's the huge dude from Game of Thrones who is the world's strongest man? Like that guy will never be neutral ever. But you have to pay attention to it, because I'm trying to get you to do that. I'm trying to get you to do something. So maybe I'm trying to get you to go from squatting 1,000 pounds to 1,005, because that's the difference between qualifying and world champion. I don't know if those are the real numbers, but if, in order for me to do that, I need to consider everything. So maybe I'm not like getting him to do like an all-four belly lift for PRI status, but I'm gonna go home and be like, this has to go mint Yankee Candle right here, and I'm gonna whip you up something nice, and you know, let's put a poster up here because that looks good. Here's the bathroom, magic eye. Here we go. Like that's where I'm looking at it. And I think what you have to appreciate is that you may never get them neutral, but you have to try, because the further away you go from that optimal health standpoint, like that guy is not healthy. So Thor is not a healthy person. He's way off the spectrum. But you need to do your best to pull him back so that he can get as close to that as possible, so he can recover as much as possible, and he's as injury prevention minded as you can possibly be. But you're never going to get there, ever.
So just out of curiosity, like changing directions a little bit, I believe now you have your own facility.
Sure.
So what kind of folks are you training, and why did you make that switch out of pro sports?
So pro sports, the reason that I don't do that anymore is because just the environments of pro sports is, I'm very cognizant. I got fired from the Lakers. So, you know, and it was, I don't like to be the guy who's like the coach hated me type stuff. And the coach and I got along, but there was like front office stuff that ended up changing the entire department. And I'm just really aware of going into a situation like that. Like, there's a lot of things that at the professional level that are really kind of out of your control, and I don't want to get into a position where like it's going to be easy to get fired again. And those things exist. When you go to a team that's not very good, you know, they're probably going to make some changes at some point, and you know, I don't necessarily want to be a part of something that I'm going to be looking at like a 3-year deal and see ya. You know, so that's why I don't do that anymore. My current situation is I have a therapeutic studio. I don't actually see anybody on strength and conditioning level. What I do right now, the biggest thing I do is I have an educational platform involving like this stuff. Like, this is what I'm teaching with it. It's like it's a subscription-based platform. So most of my day is spent producing material for that, mentoring the people that are the members of the club, and it's very educational based and not nearly strength and conditioning. I mean, I don't train people. It's very not weight room oriented at all. So I have no answer for that.
So, well, I know you do. It sounds really cool. So the folks that you're working with educationally,
Mhm.
are they doing like the things that you're describing?
Yeah,
like
so
changing
I mean,
environments.
so
and
yeah,
that
so
sort of thing?
absolutely. I'm proud to say that the Blind Man has been done across the globe. It's been done in Italy. It's been done in like Peru, and it has got. I'm very, very proud of the Blind Man exercise. And yeah, I mean, so that's what it does. Like the platform is based around. Starting it off, I think the first chapter, the first month is involved with the truth behind strength and conditioning and what I've seen growing up as a coach, and all these things that I've seen and all this real world experience that I've developed. Like I want guys and girls like you guys to understand this, because too many people are just beating their head against the wall chasing weight room numbers, and nobody's appreciating the fact that, and I don't know if it's just because you've never been there, or it's because nobody's objective enough to step back, or whatever it is. But I'm doing everything that I can to. The biggest thing that I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get people to appreciate the fact that good movement is way more conducive to high level athletics than chasing weight room numbers and trying to squat 1,000 pounds. I think that's so lost on the industry right now. So yeah, it's been awesome. I absolutely love it. A ton of people that I feel like I'm helping them.
Yeah.
But I guess that's to be determined.
So, especially in like college football, when the offseason comes around, like strength coaches are the head coaches of the offseason, and the thing with that is developing that discipline and that mental toughness aspect that coaches want to emulate, so that when they do transition to spring ball, when they do transition to preseason, it stays the same. But there's always going to be those kids who, yeah, they're never going to touch the line. They're always going to find a way to shake. They're always going to find a way to do things. Do you think that it's going to be, that can change? Do you think that can change? Do you think that that's going to change that person's personality? Yeah.
Mental toughness drills?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's no, it's an eternal struggle of the coach, right? Every year they're gonna touch the line, you know, run the box out. You come on. All the guys who are the best. You've seen the movie Rudy? Yeah. And the guy was like, if you had half the heart that Rudiger had, you'd be All-American. And in fact, now you've gone from first team to scout team. And that's the eternal struggle of the coach. It's not going to change it. But I think what really should change is the you know, I think to some degree you have to keep coaching them that way.
Yeah.
But in the back of your mind, being like, probably what makes him good. That's a huge asset to that person. Don't take that away from him. I think that is. I mean, I don't know anything about your athletic history, but I mean, stepping up in front of a huge crowd, would that make you nervous? Yeah, and for a lot of people, that doesn't make them nervous at all. Like, isn't it ridiculous? Like, I can't even fathom that. I can't even fathom. You know, you watch the NBA, you know, Brandon Ingram. The guy literally steps in front of 20,000 people like this. Well, and I don't get that. I don't understand that, right? And that's probably a guy. And actually, Brandon's pretty good about it. He's not. He'll actually get into the weight room and do what you say. But maybe that was just because I worked with him as a rookie. Maybe in 10 years it won't be that way. But like these guys who are not touching the line, these are the guys who can go out in front of 20,000 and sink a free throw. And like I can't grasp that. Maybe that's not right by the book, but something's happening there. There's a correlation there. And I think as the coach, you have to. You know, I think you can't single them out, like, you're a liver guy, like, good for you, way to not care. But you have to in your head appreciate the fact that that is probably the most important aspect of performance, because if you can do whatever you want on the field, if you get nervous in front of the crowd, you're nothing. And I just don't think you can overlook that. So, no, I don't. Long story short, no, I don't think it's ever going to change, and I don't think you want it to change, which is freaking groundbreaking, man, really. Questions? Where are we at on time? We about
What? 125.
Oh wow, God,
What's the
dominant performance. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys for coming. I've had so many. I built my career off of asking really smart people to help me out and trusting them, and coincidentally, most of those smart people are from Springfield College. So I feel like I'm giving back to the people who helped me out along the way. I'm very available if you guys ever have questions. If you're ever in New York, come to the office, come stop by. I'll show you what we got going on. I'm happy to help. If you got questions, email me, message me. I'm as available and as willing, and I want to help everybody. I have a lot of resources. I have a lot of experience, and please use me. Right? I'm a couple hours down the road. I'm around. I truly appreciate it. Thanks, guys.